Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Professor Sistrom coming to you with another lab. This lab is 434 and it deals with Linux servers. Basically, we're going to take a look at the server and then we're going to use Telnet to test TCP services. Just to give you a brief synopsis of this particular lab, it says servers are essential programs written to provide specific information upon request. So a server is a powerful computer that allows you to interact with it to get the information you may need upon request, meaning you connect to the server to get the information. Clients, which are also programs, reach out to servers, place the request. In a nutshell, this is what we have, the client server model. And what that allows us to do is have servers stationed anywhere in the world, and we will be able to get access to the information we need. Now we're going to display the services running, the current services running on this particular lab. So let's move this out the way and let's get the word. Now you see my Linux setup right here, and we doing some old Linux commands. So one of the things I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go man, and then I'm gonna do sudo. So you can get a brief look at this. So the sudo command is what we call the super user or the administrator user. Execute a command as another user. So when you using the sudo command, you are in control of the computer. Make sure you do not use this command unless you absolutely have to. Read the information about the sudo command, but it's a powerful command and you should only be using it when you need to. Okay, as an administrator, a common person wouldn't have this command in the organization. So I'm gonna go sudo, mean elevate my privileges, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put in -ELF, just some abbreviations. Now it asks me for the password of this particular setup, and I'm gonna put in the password which I know it to be. So I mean, if you're at home working on this, you know what the password is. Now what just happened? Well, a whole lot of services was just dumped down. These are all the services that's running on this particular computer. And that's what the sudo command will allow you to do. Go into administrative privileges and start looking at the services that's running. Remember, in the lab prior to this, we were actually changing services, shedding services down, and now we're using the sudo lab to look at it. So why was it necessary to put PS as the root prefacing the command of sudo? Because we wanted to look at everything that's in here. Remember, use the PS command to display all programs running in the background, and that's why we put PS in here. We want to see all the programs. Some of these programs we may have to shut down. Know how to do, as we would call, when you're working on a server. Now you're working on a server and you know how to use the command. I'm bringing another command, the sudo command, to look at all your services that's running, and the sudo command allows you to be on the root directory. Okay, so we got that piece down. We know what it is. Let's move on and do some more stuff. Another thing I want to point out is when you use the sudo command, it says here we want to process the information for the NGINX services to highlight these particular services. So sometimes we want to pull out particular services and we want to see them. We don't want everything. As you can see, by using everything, it's a bit confusing. Now I know this may seem confusing that I'm typing these commands in, but when you're in the class, you know that eventually you're going to have a lab that you will need these particular services. And as you see, I made a mistake. Let me change that real quick. That you need these particular services. Now I'm going to use the sudo command to actually PS that particular service that I was trying to get to. I'm going to EJH and hit enter. Now I'm just pulling out particular services that I want to see, and that's it. And that's all you're doing. Now, in a control environment, when you're working in an administrative environment, you will use these particular commands to look for particular services. That's all it is. So how is the process hierarchy represented? And that's all I'm doing right now. I use the EJH option to display the currently running processes tree after starting the NGINX web server. So the NGINX web server, engine web server, I'm looking at these particular services. I'm going to do that again. And I just want you to make sure you understand it. Now I use the capital H to pull down the services. It's a lot of services here. We're not going to explain the service. We don't want you to get caught up on the services. We just want you to understand how to pull out these services by using particular commands. Let's go back to the commands that I use here. So I use EN-EJH capital. I used it here too. I also pulled this server out so I can go into here. So I just want you to understand, when you're working in a Linux environment, you may need to be able to see what's going on with the system. What services are running on a system so you can correct these particular issues. Now, we talked about NetStart before, but NetStart can actually pull up a lot of services too. So let's type in NetStart and see what we'll get here. And you'll be using this command a lot. So now you see, by using NetStart, we looking at, it says here, your output may be different depending on the number of network connections. But look at what NetStart is showing us, all these different connections. And we want to make sure that you understand how to pull up connections. So remember, look up NetStart, and you will see NetStart returns a lot of information when used without options. And we don't need all this information. We don't need port numbers. We don't need all these connections and all this stuff. We don't need everything, but we just practicing with the particular services, these commands. Excuse me, I said services, but I meant commands. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on here some particular options. Let's use this option here. So let's go sudo, right? And then we're going to go net start. And then we're going to say dash. This is the option tune AP that we want to use. And look what happens now. So you see we had a bunch of stuff here. Now we got just basic stuff here. So what you want to know is what do it mean when I say dash T or dash U or dash N or dash A or dash P? You can find out about all these different options. And these are just options to shrink down all the material that you'll be using when you looking up and trying to find out what's going on with the services. People, understand this. This is just basically teaching you about the particular services that you will be looking up to make sure you understand what's going on. That's it. Don't make it any complicated than it is. Try not to do that. Just basically make sure you understand the services that's in here. Now, we're going to end with the TCP lookup. We're going to use Telnet. Now, Telnet is an unsecure command, but we use Telnet to teach people. Telnet is considered insecure, unsecure. It does not provide encryption. Administrators who choose to use Telnet to remote into a managed system, you doing a dangerous game, but we're going to play around. So I'm going to Telnet my particular uh, uh, server right quick. I just want to Telnet in, act like I'm going in anyway. I'm really not going in, and see what will it produce. And I'm gonna go to a straight port number. I'm gonna go to 80, and we know what that port number stands for. 80 stands for web services. So as you can see right there, we were able to Telnet right in, connecting to 127.0.0.1. And we know what that means. That's just making sure that we have connectivity on our particular services. So remember, when you use that, we want to make sure we have particular connectivity on our services.